the Caribbean, including 312 in Puerto Rico, 1,200 in Guadeloupe, 42 in Montserrat, and 18 in Turks and Caicos Islands. In the Bahamas, major damage was done to shipping in Nassau Harbor, and many schooners such as Carcom, Captain Charlie, and some other mailboats were totally destroyed in the hurricane. Some of the mailboats that were destroyed were the San Salvador Granahani, the Andros Island mailboat, the William Carlos, the Maguana mailboat, Nonsuch. Now, Nonsuch has an interesting history here. Nonsuch was destroyed in the 1926 hurricane. They rebuilt it. It was destroyed in the 1928 hurricane. They rebuilt it. It was destroyed in the 1929 hurricane. They rebuilt it. And I never heard about Nonsuch after that. I guess either they fired the captain or he decided to try his hand at farming or something. But at Nonsuch, every single hurricane, his name appeared. And also another, in that case with boats, another place that is, another church was Trinity Church. Trinity Church was destroyed in the 1926 hurricane, the 1928 hurricane. Portion of it was destroyed in 1928, and the 1929 hurricane, the roof was destroyed. And in the 1933 season, one of them called the Treasure Coast hurricane, it developed some minor damages.
1866 hurricane.
Oh yes, in 1866. Every single year, and I saw a note in the newspaper saying that they need to change the pastor because someone is bringing bad luck to Trinity Church. And thankfully, after the 1933 season, I don't know who did it or what happened, but they stopped being destroyed by hurricanes after that. The impact of the Okeechobee hurricane on the Bahamas. In the Bahamas, like I said, the western portion of Trinity Wesley Methodist Church was torn away. The roof of St. Mary's Church on Virginia Street and Wesley Church in Grandstand all suffered some considerable damage. The northern half of the Higgs sponge shared near the sponge exchange was blown away. The roof was blown away from Munson Steamship Building line on Bay Street, and this building was also destroyed in the 1920 and 1929 hurricane as well, the Munson Steamship line. And on Cat Island, major damage was done. Like I said, it was a very devastating hurricane for the Bahamas, but because the death toll in Florida was much greater, most people don't concentrate on the effects that it had on the Bahamas. And on Cat Island, major damage was done to the roads, bridges, homes, and were destroyed. In Atherstown, the public wharf, the doctor's residence, churches, and about 100 homes were destroyed. In the Bight alone, about 60 houses were badly damaged or totally destroyed. Many roads were either washed away or rendered impassable after the storm. Meanwhile, on the island of Eleuthera, the storm destroyed 128 homes. An additional 154 were badly damaged, and at Harbour Island, it was reported that 95 houses, including a few churches such as the Church of England, were badly damaged or totally destroyed in the storm. The island of Bimini reportedly sustained major damage and sustained winds of 140 miles per hour during the peak of the storm. And major damage was done to several buildings, and nearly every home on the island was reportedly damaged or destroyed. Damage to the state of Florida. In early September 17, that's when the storm struck West Palm Beach. The storm made landfall near West Palm Beach with winds in excess of 145 miles per hour, making it a strong Category 4 hurricane. Prior to that, it was 160 miles per hour, and when it started hitting land, the strength of the storm weakened significantly to 145 miles per hour. And more than 1,711 homes were destroyed. Elsewhere in the county, the impact was severe around Lake Okeechobee. The storm caused water to pour out of the southern edge of the lake, flooding hundreds of square miles as high as 20 feet above ground. Numerous houses and buildings were swept away in the cities of Belglade, Canal Point, Chosin, and South Bay. After the storm, the Herbert Hoover Dike, which was named after the president at the time, he was the president that had experience in engineering. So he used that engineering expertise to make sure the Army Corps of Engineers built the dike around the lakes. And in fact, because of this storm, they also built a dike around Lake Maine in Louisiana. And we all know what happened with Louisiana and Hurricane Katrina of 2005. The reason why that came about was because of this hurricane, and he did that every storm, every area that exposed to hurricane coast, he made sure that those had levees or some sort of buffering from the storm. And the impact and the death toll of the Okeechobee hurricane, like I said, in Guadeloupe 1,200, in Turks and Caicos 18, the Bahamas 3, Martinique 3, Puerto Rico 312, St. Kitts 9, Nevis 13, and the total deaths in the Caribbean was 1,607 persons who died. And in Florida, like I said, 1,836 was the document total, and that was changed to at least 2,000 in 2003. The most intense landfalling U.S. hurricane, the reason why I'm including this is because this storm impacted the United States. And the most intense hurricane on record in the United States is the Great Labor Day Hurricane of 1935. It still remains the strongest or the most intense hurricane that struck the United States coast. And if you notice, there's not Hurricane Andrew or not Hurricane Katrina, which is a lot of students when I speak to universities, they ask me how come Andrew or Katrina is not number 1 and number 2 respectively. The intensity of a hurricane is measured solely by barometric pressure. The lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. That basically goes to and they can't use the wind total because the wind total, there will be errors in it. They used to use the wind total prior to the 1950s, but after research on hurricanes, and great amount of research on hurricanes during these storms, they found out that was not accurate, so they changed the name. They changed it where they used intensity or barometric pressure alone. And the Lake Okeechobee hurricane of 1928 was number 7, and that had 929 millibars. The Great Miami hurricane of 1926 was number 8, and there were others. Katrina was number 3, Hurricane Andrew was number 4, and Sandy's not even there. And that's for a reason. Sandy was not a strong hurricane. Sandy was, believe it or not, it was a category 3 when it made landfall. So that there are many others who had intensities greater than Sandy. Sandy, and the problem is with the recent storms, you have 20-hour television highlighting these storms on a consistent basis. So many people think that these are the worst hurricanes to impact the area, either the Bahamas, the United States, or the world. And one hurricane would be, I think, Hurricane Hanan, with Typhoon Hanan, which occurred in the Philippines last year. They had the television news stations reported that it's the strongest hurricane on record, but it's not. It was number 5th. It's the 5th strongest all-time hurricane. And number 1 still remains Super Typhoon Tip of 1979. The deadliest North Atlantic hurricanes, that, as you can see, the Great Okeechobee Hurricane of 1928 is number 9. The deadliest hurricane is the Great Hurricane of 1780. It's the greatest and deadliest storm of the region. And this storm impacted the region for many years to come. And I wrote a book on this one. I think this was my 5th book, and it's one of my best-selling books throughout the region and in the United States. And after that is Hurricane Mitch. These storms maybe you never heard of it, but Mitch was a Central American hurricane and killed about 19,325 plus persons. Next, the third on this is Great Galveston Hurricane, which had 8,000 to 12,000 in total. And if you notice, most of them have total, the 50 in 1974 was 8,000 to 10,000. And the Dominican Republic hurricane of 1930 was 2,000 to 8,000. And the reason why they give you a range is because a lot of times hurricanes, there's so many things involving hurricanes at the same time. Obtaining an accurate count sometimes, now it's done, but back then it was very difficult to obtain an accurate count because some people just buried the bodies or wherever they found them, they buried the bodies or just got rid of them, either burned them in mass graves or to get rid of them at the time. And so you really don't get an official total. So basically what the National Hurricane Center does is it gives a range. It gives a range on what the estimated total would be. And the deadliest hurricane in the United States is the Great Galveston Hurricane of 1900, and second to that is the Great Okeechobee Hurricane of 1928. Hurricane Katrina is number Number 3 with 1,836 persons.